Well, hello there. It's your favourite fresh air junkie, Nikki Hardy, and welcome to the Wildly Known Life podcast, a podcast for those of us who feel closest to God in nature and want to get outside to hang with Him there, so we can reconnect with who we're created to be, calm the heck down, and finally feel alive again. I'm an author, retreat leader, and pilgrimage guide who weaves story, scripture, and science into simple, biblically based practices you can carry into the woods, your morning routine, or a regular Tuesday afternoon. Because the goal isn't to escape life, it's to live the one we have more fully in God. Okay, let's dive in. Let's get wild. When I backpack alone, I get asked the same question every time. Aren't you scared? And if you've listened to last week's episode, Why I Hike and Camp Solo as a Woman Approaching 60, and if you haven't listened, you might want to circle back to it once we say goodbye today. If you've listened, you know the answer is, heck yes, of course I do. But all the comments about that episode have made me realize that something about fear changes shape as we age. As I pitch my tent in a forest clearing and lay out my sleeping pad and bag and light my trusty stove to heat up my dinner of ramen noodles, my heart flutters with the real and present fears of what's lurking in the woods and how far from other humans I am. But the truth is, there's another, deeper, often quieter fear within me that's burning quietly like the embers of a forgotten fire that I'm only just learning to name and listen to. Maybe it was somewhere in the middle of losing people I love far too early, or going through cancer myself, or maybe it was careening over the midlife and menopause cliff thanks to chemo. But as I've aged, fear has become a strange kind of mentor and guide. We all know midlife, with the accompanying changes of perimenopause and on into menopause, is a time of change. Loss, confusion, anger, moods, and much that feels damaging and a loss. But if we let it, it can also be a time of profound transformation and liberation. In her book, Haggitude, Reimagining the Second Half of Life, Sharon Blackie wisely notes, the truth is, by the time we reach menopause, we've all lived with too much loss. We've all been broken open. We've accumulated too much pain. Menopause is the time to transform it, to stop trying to stitch ourselves back together again into the same old pattern, to put away that darning needle, blunted by our persistent and insistent repair work, to step into the crucible and let it do its work. We can't mend everything. We can't, and sometimes we simply shouldn't. Whether we're in the glowing fearlessness of youth, we're premenopausal, we're navigating the stormy waters of perimenopause, or we're firmly on the other side, Sharon Blackie's encouragement to us is the same. Let the upheaval, the changes, the loss, the fears, and feelings we don't recognize ourselves, to do its transforming work, to stop fighting it. As we age, we simply can't continue to be who we were. Yet at the same time, so many of us, myself included, don't know or have lost touch with who we are, who we could be, or even who we want to be anymore, let alone who God has created us to be. Life, loss, family expectations and values, societal norms and pressures, our faith cultures and messaging, and the voices of the mostly male authority figures we're surrounded by have up until now informed who we should or shouldn't be. There's a part of me, now that my kids are all out of the house and bits of me are starting to break, sag and wrinkle, and my focus is no longer fully consumed with the raising of humans and serving as a pastor's wife, that kind of misses the woman I was in my 20s and 30s and 40s. But if I'm honest, and you know I am pathologically predisposed to honesty, even if she's still there in some sort of long-term coma, I'm not sure I really want to resuscitate her. Because more than anything, I long to be the woman I'm convinced is waiting to emerge from her chrysalis when the messy work of metamorphosis is done. Because it turns out, aside from the obvious and devastating fear of losing one of my children, my deepest fear is not becoming who I was created to be, of continually feeling on the edge of emerging from the chrysalis of midlife, of teetering on the edge of flourishing, yet never fully taking flight, never experiencing the joy of being and doing all I'm created for, of living a shadow life, a life in black and white, when God has a vibrant technicolor life for us all. What's more terrifying than camping alone in the woods is living stuck in the chrysalis I've carefully crafted for myself and never emerging as the butterfly something within me tells me we're all created to be. That, my friend, scares me more than any bear in the woods. And if a butterfly cocoon is forcibly opened too soon to help the butterfly emerge, she'll never take flight. She'll never know what a winged beauty she is or drink the nectar of 1,000 blooms. The struggle to emerge is intense, but it is essential. The struggle to open the chrysalis pumps fluid into her wings, strengthening her muscles. No struggle, no beauty. And so it is for us. If we don't struggle, if we never step into our fears, if we don't let the crucible do its work, we'll never take wing on the ruach, or breath and wind of God that constantly calls us further into who we are. As I said in last week's episode, there are plenty of things that scare me now that didn't used to, that I am quite happy never doing again. Bungee jumping, anyone? Nope, I'm good, thanks. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt to prove it. But for me, hiking and backpacking solo fuel that crucible's fire within me. It's the struggle slowly pumping fluid into my wings, strengthening my becoming. For you, it might not be sleeping alone in a tent miles from home. But if it is, let me know, as I don't always want to go alone and would love more buddies to hike with. But assuming it's not, I'm confident there's an ember burning within you. Wings that are slowly, painfully unfurling in readiness of you taking flight in what's next. I wish I could tell you there's an easy way to figure out our becoming in this stage or any stage of life. But like the butterfly, it takes time, effort, and more struggle than either of us would like. For me, I know it's connected to nature, to creation and faith. I know it's in the world of leading and teaching, and seems to be moving towards more backpacking, retreats and pilgrimages. Some of it's for me, and much of it's for and with others. And of course, you're going to be invited to all the events and gatherings that we're brewing for the fall. But above all, I'm doing my best to let it emerge, to not force it or demand answers. Whenever I ask God to show me what he wants me to do or where he wants to use me in the world, the only sense I get is that he's asking me to explore with him. There doesn't seem to be a direct, clear answer, no specific one thing I'm being called to do. And honestly, it's quite frustrating. In the past, God's spoken more clearly, and when I've felt called to do something, I set my compass in that direction and get on with it, and it gets done. Give up corporate life? Check. Retrain as a high school science teacher? Check. Go to seminary in Oxford? Check. Move to America to plant a church? Check. What's next as I enter my next third of my life? Ooh, let's explore. What kind of direction or discernment is that? But as usual, God is more interested in the journey than the destination. He's more interested in who we're becoming than our productivity. And as always, he's more interested in us doing life with him than doing life for him. In us relying on him as we explore who he's created us to be. We might be feeling past our prime and being told that by the world around us, but we don't need to look far to see how God just doesn't agree. Maybe I'll talk more about aging and what both God's creation and word have to say about it another time, as it's been a reading side quest I've been down for quite a few months now. But for now, may we, as John O'Donoghue, the Irish poet and author, wrote, trust the promise of this opening and let our fears mentor and guide us in the struggle. So that, my friend, is a little of what I'm doing alone in the woods at night. Exploring. Not so much the land, but the unexplored terrain of my own inner landscape. Strangely, the fear that accompanies it is resuscitating the parts of me that have been starved of oxygen as I've given myself to others. Now it's time to refill my lungs so I can continue to share of myself in new and yet undiscovered ways and embrace the promise of this opening. And the same is true for you. So let me ask you, where is God inviting you to explore? What might your current struggle be creating in you? How might He be encouraging you to focus on being with Him more than doing life for Him? Well, we're going to end as we always do with a simple, embodied, repeatable practice, prayer or invitation to take into your day. And this week, it's a poem by Irish poet and author John O'Donoghue, titled For a Beginning, that the line, "Trust the promise of this opening," is from. Take a moment to listen to it now, but save this episode or bookmark it or whatever you need to do to be able to return to it when you're next outside, on a wander, or planting your annuals. May it become your unfurling practice in the days to come. And we'll enter this time, as we always do, with this centering prayer. And so, as we take time to be with God now, let us rest a moment in stillness, returning our wandering minds to His presence and responding with openness. For a New Beginning by John O'Donoghue. In out-of-the-way places of the heart, where your thoughts never think to wander, this beginning has been quietly forming, waiting until you were ready to emerge. For a long time, it has watched your desire, feeling the emptiness growing inside you, noticing how you willed yourself on, still unable to leave what you had outgrown. It watched you play with the seduction of safety and the grey promises that sameness whispered, heard the waves of turmoil rise and relent, wondered, would you always live like this? Then the delight, when your courage kindled and out you stepped onto new ground, your eyes young again with energy and dream, a path of plenitude opening before you. Though your destination's not yet clear, you can trust the promise of this opening. Unfurl yourself into the grace of beginning. This is at one with your life's desire. Awaken your spirit to adventure. Hold nothing back. Learn to find ease in rest. Soon you will be home in a new rhythm, for your soul senses the world that awaits you. Thanks for spending time together on the Wildly Known Life podcast. And the podcast is growing quietly thanks to you sharing it with your friends, for which I'm super grateful. If you know of someone who's going through midlife and might feel a bit untethered or lost, do share this episode with them. I'm sure they'll thank you. And of course, subscribing and leaving a short review not only helps spread the word, but ensures future episodes land in your podcast feed. And the deeper conversations and connections happen over on the Wildly Known Life on Substack, and you'll find the link for that down in the show notes. And I look forward to seeing you there and getting to know you better over on that platform. Before you go, remember, sometimes the best thing we can do for ourselves is to step outside, take a deep breath, drop our shoulders and ask what our wildly wonderful God has to say. Because that's where coming alive in our life and faith begins, and living wildly known follows. Until next time, my wild friends, see you soon.